Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Nico Lagan. He is an entrepreneur, a men's coach, and host of the controversial, he calls it controversial podcast, the Nico Lagan Show. Welcome to the show, Nico.
Thanks for having me. And, people call it controversial because to me, I'm just talking common sense. But today, common sense is not as common as it should be.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that was supposed to be my first question. That why do you call it controversial? It is you say that people call it controversial. So help us understand to the audience why do they call it controversial? What is it that you talk and they don't like it? They find it controversial.
North America has been on the decline for a while now when it comes to our values, when it comes to our morals. And, girls can be boys, boys can be girls. And when I come in, I'm a 200-pound muscular guy covered in tattooed, bald head. And I start telling people that they need to be more manly. They don't like that. They really, really don't enjoy the traditional masculinity angle. And yeah, it really bothers people to be told that it's your fault. If you look at your life and your life sucks, guess what? It's your fault. But that also means that you have the power to change it. You have the power to make it a nightmare, but you have the power to make it paradise as well, for lack of a better term. So people don't like accountability. They don't like to be told that it's their fault. People don't like that. It's unfortunate because it's the greatest power you possess. If you accept the fact that it's your fault, that means you're powerful beyond measure. But people don't like to hear it because that means that, again, it's their fault.
So what do they want to hear? And from whom do they want to hear? Is talking about men, masculinity, and purpose. Is that a wrong thing? I mean, I want to understand then what is their choice. All those people who call it controversial, we are just having a great discussion, means what is controversial about it? And if you talk the same thing in your podcast, what is controversial about it? I want to understand if you find what you talk as controversial, what about men, masculinity, and purpose, what is it then they want to hear from you?
A great example that I can use is when I was a teenager, I was bullied. I was a coward. I was a victim. I did not know what to do. I did not know how to defend myself. And my bully was very physical. He would literally beat me up. He followed me home before and beat me up in the staircase of where I used to live. So I had two choices. I could do nothing or do something. It was 100% my fault. Could I choose to be bullied? No, nobody deserves to be bullied. But at the end of the day, life is unfair. What you decide to do is your choice. But for years, I decided to play the victim, to say, you know what, it's his fault, not mine. I've done nothing wrong. It's not my problem. And I would just shove that thought at the back of my head. And in my 20s, I realized that, you know what, I can continue being a victim, or I can choose to do something about it. I can choose to learn how to defend myself. And that first step to admit to yourself that you are the problem is the first step to your salvation. And again, that's what people don't want to hear. So when I tell people all the time that their problem is their fault, you don't choose the cards you're being dealt. You were born a certain way. I have gift that came with me, that God gave me when I was born. I have different talents than other people do. Granted, I come from a broken down family. I didn't have a father figure. And for my whole life, I'm always looking to have mentors. I'm always looking for men that I believe are better men than me to mold myself after. And this is in all of us. But what are my choices? I could become a statistics and say, I didn't have a father, so if I'm a criminal, it's because I didn't have a father. If I didn't accomplish anything in my life, it's because I didn't have a father. If I'm an addict, it's because I don't have a father. I did that for years. I did it for 6 or 7 years. I chose to be a victim. But the day that you decide to not be a victim, you realize that you hold the power. And this is what we tend to be. We live, at least in North America, we live in a society of victim. When we are faced with a problem, we tend to point our fingers at other people and say, this would not happen if he didn't exist or if he didn't do that. You know what? Maybe you're right. In the case of bullies, for example, I would have never been bullied if bullies didn't exist. But life is unfair. You don't control that. It's out of your control. That is not something you control, but you do control how you're going to react to those situations. What are you going to do about it and how you feel about it? Those all belong to you. So, this is the part that people will do not like because our society of today is built in a way where we want to create safe spaces. We want to create fake environments that are not natural, where people can just be, instead of teaching them the skills they need to deal with situations that are bad. So instead of teaching them, you know what, if a bully bullies you, learn how to defend yourself. So I will learn how to defend, I will teach you how to defend yourself from the get-go. So if you're ever in that situation, you'll know how to deal with it. You'll have the confidence in your skills to defend yourself. But now we can't say that because that would mean that it's our fault, that we need to do something about it, although we don't choose that situation. This is the problem. And unfortunately, that's how parents raise their kids nowadays. They teach them to be special. They teach them that they're special, that everybody needs to respect them, that their feelings matter, that we need to tiptoe around their feelings when they should learn temperance and control their feelings and their emotions, or else your emotions will control you.
Right, right, Nico. So you talk of, that safe spaces for everyone. And you also talk that masculinity is under attack in today's society, and you fearlessly champion strong men. So where do men go? Where are the safe spaces for men, strong men especially, men who are masculine, who are like the old times, and people want a different definition now? How do you help the audience understand about men finding their safe place in today's changing society?
There's no such thing as a safe space for men. There's none. It is a job of a man to create safe spaces for his family, for his wife, for his kids, by providing a house where they can grow, they can feel safe. But as soon as you step out that front door, that you're in the real world, there's no such thing as a safe space. And unfortunately, men today don't want to take the responsibility and accept the fact that we create the safe spaces. We do not live in a safe space, but it is our duty as a man to create one for our families so that they feel safe. Because if you look throughout history, in a time where man is just surviving, and when I say man, I mean mankind. When humankind is just surviving, there's no growth. When you're always worried about where your next meal is going to come from, look at today. People are all in debts. They live paycheck to paycheck. There's almost no way for you to grow if all you're worried about is where my next meal is going to come from, how I'm going to pay my house, I'm going to keep my car. All you're focused on are problems. This is why a man needs to be a provider and protect his family and provide the space where his family, especially his kids and his wife at home, can relax and grow, learn, because they feel safe, because you're taking it upon yourself to provide that environment in which they can grow. But as a man, unfortunately, we have to take it on our shoulders to say, this is my responsibility. So I will never have a safe space, but I will create safe spaces for the people that I love. In the same way as communities, your community in which you live in is built by men. It was it is maintained by men, and men will continue to do whatever it takes in order to supply the best society for the people that they love as possible, because that is what men do.
Right, right, Nico. In today's time, there is a lot of talk about equality and equality between men and women. How do you see it? Because initially you said about men men want to be women, women want to be men. I don't
Yeah.
know if that is
Yep.
the right way I'm quoting, but you
Yep.
can rephrase it the right way. But what does it mean? Where are we going with this? And what is it that we are trying to achieve? And as you said that men were always the decision makers. So is it that men themselves have conspired to mislead themselves? Where is it that we are wanting to go as a society, as men, as a gender? And when we mean men, I'm talking about, in a larger way, wider way.
This is a multifaceted question because if you look at it, there are gender roles. There are roles that are attached to you being a man and you being and a woman being a woman. Men are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they take more risk, they're more aggressive. It only makes sense that we become protectors. It only makes sense that we provide because we can do those jobs that are more dangerous. We're ready to do more dangerous jobs because we, deep down in our DNA, we want to provide that safe space, as I was saying. And there's no other being on this planet except female that can give birth to children. So guess what? If you look at what it is, and if we call a spade, women are meant to give birth. They are meant to have children. If just look at how those differences transcribes into education. If you look in North America right now, you look at engineering. If I was a sales engineer for more than a decade, and I can tell you in my field, it's 99% men. There's not a lot of women in my field. And if you look at the universities in North America, it's the same thing. There's studies that comes out to say that about 80 to 90% of engineering students are men. But on the flip side, if you look at the universities now that specialize in medicine, and I'm not just talking about nurses, I'm talking about doctors, I'm talking about all fields attached to medicine, the exact same numbers are starting to be reflected in the students. So there is 80 to 90% of the students right now in universities in medicine that are women. Look at nurses. 86% of nurses are women. Look at education system. Here, 76% to 80% of teachers are women. Why? If you look at the way it is, like there's somebody, I don't remember who said this, but there's somebody that said that men like things, women love people. And it is true. Look at our behavior. If look at how men and women face a problem. If I'm faced with a problem, I will look at it logically. I will say, okay, this is my problem. Those are my solutions. Which one makes more sense? Let's go. I'm not attaching any emotion to it. I'm just, okay, this is logic. But you look at a woman. Women are led by their emotions, and there's nothing more beautiful than a woman that is just emotional, that's dancing in the rain, for example. That's a great example, right? You can see it in your head. It's raining, there's music playing. It's like, look at your wife. She will start dancing when she's cooking for absolutely no reason. That's because she's living in her feminine. So today we're trying to tell women that they can be boys, boys that can be women, and we are messing up with our natural, not, I wouldn't even say skills, but we're messing with our natural energies. There are things that we are meant to do, and today's society, we're trying to meet in the middle. We're trying to say that everybody is equal when a man and a woman are together, not because they are the same, but because they're so different that they complement each other. They're supposed to be polarized. A man and a woman are two sides of the same coin. It's like yin and a yang. It's the same thing. We are opposite. And this is how it should be. This is how it's always been. And think about it. Why would you want to be with somebody that's exactly like you? My girlfriend is nothing like me. We have the same morals, we have the same virtues when it comes to what matters to us, but she is not like me at all, and neither am I. I'm not like her at all, and I would not want her to be like me, because what's the point? I might as well be alone if she doesn't bring anything different to the equation. Why would she be there? It makes no sense. And look at what's going on in North America right now. Men are not being men anymore because they don't have masculine role models to follow. So they don't even know what it is to be a man. They're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. They are eternal teenagers. They've never been taught what it is to be a man. What are the responsibilities and the virtues that a man should have? And they force women to be masculine. Now women are masculine and they try to date men that are feminine because they have such masculine energy. And it's all about energy. Women are forced into a masculine role, so men are being forced in a feminine role to counterbalance the emotion. It's always the way it is. Look at a gay couple. You could have two women. You always have one of the woman that's more feminine, and one of the other woman is more masculine. It's all about the energies, and we're playing with that. Like you said equality. This is the perfect word. We want everything to be equal. It's not. In the face of the law, when it comes to what you are allowed to do legally, a man and a woman are equal. But when it comes to natural abilities, we're not equal at all. I'm 6'1", 200 pounds of muscle. Do you honestly think my girlfriend has a chance physically against me at 110 pounds? Of course not, she doesn't. But I look at how patient a woman is. Look, in general, there's a reason why women go into medicine, because they care about people. They're more empathic, they're more emotional, they care. And it makes sense. Think about it. If you're hurt, what do you want? You want a guy like me that shows up, that tells you to suck it up, buttercup? Or you want somebody that's there to say, you know what? I understand you're hurting. It's going to empathize with you. It's going to make you feel better. But at the same time, do you want an engineer to be emotional, to look at a bridge and say, oh, I feel that it should be built? No, 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 no. There's laws of physics that you need to respect in order to build something logically. And we're lying to ourselves if we believe that men and women are the same, because we're not. We're completely different. In the same way as, can you imagine having kids? Can you imagine giving birth to kids? Having to have that having a kid in your stomach for 9 months, then having it come out of you, destroy everything on its way out, and still love it? You wouldn't. That's not how we're built. But you look at women, they love their children. It doesn't matter in the state that their body is left after. They love their children because they were meant to be the one responsible for giving birth.
Right, right. So here it is question about the right kind of equality, and it's not about superiority. Both are superior in their own way. Who
Mhm.
is trying to create this whole? Is it the market? Is it a few people? What is your understanding of this, Nico?
You know what? This is a realm of, this is always an interesting subject, because when it comes down to it, men are the first and last line of defense of any society, any community, any family, because we are meant to be protectors. We are the ones that will fight for the people that we love. If you are trying to control a society, what is the first thing that you need to get rid of? Masculine men, because they're always going to be your biggest problem. In the same way as a society does not want their citizen to be intelligent. Like Rome invented that 2000 years ago. Entertainment. They would give you food, alcohol, and entertain you with gladiators. Why? Because they're taking your mind off of the problems that really matter. Why do you think everybody's always stuck to their phone? They're always stuck to a television, and then the governments are always doing things in the back end where people don't question, because they're too busy paying attention to something that really doesn't matter. So to me, the plan is simple. If you assume from the get-go that your government doesn't like you, I don't care where you're from, government doesn't like you, they don't love you, they don't do anything for you, they're doing things for them as the individual. If we all understand this, you start realizing that it's up to you. to do something about it. If you want a better life, don't put that in the hands of somebody else, put it in yours. Why would they want feminine men? Because feminine men are easy to control. All they have to do is play on your emotions, and they can guide you to whatever decision that they want because they can get at you emotionally. If you have men that are brought up through rites of passages to be monsters, to be ready to give up their lives to defend the people that they love, you can't control that. You can't control those people because they don't put themselves first. They put their family, their community, and their society before their own well-being, and you can't control that. This is very dangerous. If your end goal is to control, you cannot control a guy like that. So what do? You feminize them through generations and generation and generation of indoctrination through an education system that is basically teaching our kids to be servant and not think with their heads. They're not creating critical thinkers. They're creating people that live in tiny boxes to say, this is what you're supposed to learn. Don't question it. Just regurgitate it to me when I'm asking you to say something. Don't test me. I'll test you. Just know the answer. Don't question it. And then I'll give you good grades so that you feel good about it.
So these people or entities, whoever they are, and whatever they are doing, do you think they will be not impacted by it, or they will be something of a super being which will be, living in the right way for forever? Do you think is it possible that ways? Because
So
they are also on the same planet. I don't know why whoever is doing it uh, is doing this way, because this will also destroy them.
that's a philosophical question at this point, and you're making a good point, because why would people do that knowing that it's not going to be a good end? It's all a matter of perspective. To you it doesn't seem like a good end, but to them it does, because at the end, it really depends how far you want to take this. You want to take this conversation down that rabbit hole, but if you understand that the people that are in power, like the governments and the people controlling the governments, don't like you, they don't see you as one of their own. So what happens to you does not matter. It's irrelevant to them, as long as they get good, as long as they get what they want outside of it, which is always control. Control is the ultimate power. Money is, for most people, money is a source of control. The more money they have, the easier it is to buy people, the more control they have over over those people. But why do they do it? Because they simply want power. They're greedy. Humans are so greedy. We are so greedy and corruptible by nature that if you don't care for others, if you don't see, if you look at most wars, how do people look at what the Nazis did in the Second World War? They vilified Jews. They said that, you know what, we are we are we are now poor. Our country doesn't have any resources. We don't have any money, and it's all because of the Jews. Because they can vilify someone, you can rally your people behind a common enemy. They always do that in every single conflict. They will always divide, and then they will conquer. But you need to have a demon. And look at today, the demon is strong men. Look at what's coming out of North America. It's always white Christian males that are being called evil because what? Because they have virtues, because they have morals, because they believe in something greater than themselves. Like, if you look where I'm from a province in Canada where in the 60s and the 70s, the state separated the church from the state. So the government said that the state and the church should not be together anymore. There should be two different entities. And by doing that, they started building a structure that was a public structure to say, instead of going for the church for those things, you're going to come to the government. So the government has slowly replaced God by themselves. So we are seeing God, instead of seeing God as the whole, we're seeing our government as our god. They're the ones taking care of us. And this is brilliant when you think about it on a psychological standpoint. It is absolutely brilliant because now our societies are so used to being in a state of dependency of the government that they don't question anymore. We've been indoctrinated for so long. So as long as the government creates enemies that they can point their fingers at to say, oh, you know what, if you're not happy in your life, that's because of them. All the problems you're seeing, it's because of them. Oh, you're not having the no problem, it's their fault. It's we're so Einstein said that there's only two things that are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. We all, and if you look at the definition of insanity, it is to repeat the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if you look throughout history, it's always been that way. For at least 2,000 years, we've been ruled by divide and conquer and entertainment. Here's something, get focused on things that don't matter. Let us do what we do because we know better.
Right, Nico. Right. So, is it a situation of no retracing our steps, or is it that we are moving towards disaster? That's the only way we see out. Do you see hope? Because you are fighting for something. Why are you fighting if you are not so confident, or you are very confident that it will be a victory for the right sort of men, the right sort of society, the right side or kind of masculinity as well as femininity?
You know, there's it's been proven through history, and I can't remember the name of the scientist that did the work, but there is a cycle between 80 to 120 years old. They tracked it down for thousands of years, and you know the expression that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. They've tracked it down to about an 80 to 120 years old in this cycle. And if you look at society right now in North America, at least, the last strong man came from the Second World War, which ended in 1945. So that means that 80 years almost to the dot, we are at the end of that cycle. We have weak men that created hard times. This is where we are right now. We're seeing the effect of hard times that are coming because they're here. You're asking me, why do I do what I do? Because at the end of the day, the only way for us to get out of this, because it's going to be bad. What we see right now is just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And in order for it to get better, we need strong men. We need men that are ready to do what needs to get done in a way that it's selfless, thinking about their loved ones. Because if you look throughout history, men are disposable. We are the ones dying in wars. It's always young men between 20 and 29 that die in wars. Why? Because deep down in it's to our core, we want to protect. And this is why I do what I do, because I want men to be ready to have the tools, the skills, and have the virtues that they need in order to get through it. Because the hard men that are ready to do the work, they're ready to be selfless, to take care of others, they will survive this. But the weak men won't. And this is why we need strong men. Because if there is a collapse, if this the United States for itself doesn't to it's not going to be a superpower 10 years from now. China is the next superpower. And again, 80 years ago it was the British that were in power, and now to the dot the Americans took over as the world leader. And then 80 years almost to the dot, you're starting to see the empire crumble. It's going to happen. No matter what, it's going to happen. But who's ready to rebuild it afterwards? Strong men. That's why we need strong men. And that's why I have faith that strong men will do what they're supposed to be doing once it comes down to that.
So, who is a strong man in today's time? Because earlier the definition was that in terms of physical power, somebody who could, who can go and fight.
Mhm.
Today, the power is in people's hands, in their phones, on the with artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
Everyone has that same ability. So, how do you define a strong man in today's time? It is mental, physical. How does it work?
To me, there's 5 virtues to a good man. A good man needs to be courageous. He needs to have the balls to do what needs to get done when it needs to get done, however he feels about it. He needs to be a protector. He needs to be physically fit. He needs to know how to fight because he will one day need to defend his loved ones, himself, his loved ones. He needs to be a provider because, as we said earlier, he needs to provide a safe space for his family to flourish. He needs to have temperance. As you so put it, a guy needs to control his emotions. Women are meant to live in their emotion state. That's what we want from women. But that means, this is how I put it. A man is a woman's rock, and a woman is a man's weakness. We are supposed to be the rock to our women so that they can live in their feminine, but at the same time we need to be emotional with our women so that they get to know us. But once you step out that door, at the front door of that house, you cannot be emotional anymore. Your job is to be stoic. So temperance, you do not want to be easily controlled. If I can use my words to make you react a certain way, you're easily controllable, and a good man is not. And then the fifth virtue as a good man is faith. You need to have faith in yourself if you ever want to build self-confidence. How can you ever be confident in your skill if you don't first know that you're capable of doing something? How can you create a new relationship with someone if you don't first have faith that they are the person they say they are? And how can you do anything in life when it comes to purpose if you don't first believe or you don't first have faith that you were put on this earth for a reason? So you got to be courageous. You got to be a protector, a provider. You need temperance, and you need to have faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to understand more about it, and who better than you yourself, Nick. So, what's the best way for them to connect with you and also listen to your podcast, The Nick Lagan Show?
They can find me. They can go to my website at nicolagan.com. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Real Nico Lagan. And my YouTube channel is Nico Lagan.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.